Today I'm going to be taking a look at the McFarlane Toys Spawn Mortal Kombat figure. Spawn, of course, being owned entirely by Todd McFarlane and is the flagship character of Image Comics. When Spawn first hit the shelves in the very early 90s, he was an instant success. There was a lot of anticipation around this character. Todd McFarlane was a huge superstar of an artist back in those days, and there was a lot of buzz around this character. Some attention around the character waned over the coming years. Initially very popular, but then Todd stepped back from the drawing duties, started to expand his toy empire, and after the Hollywood film and the animated series, attention around the character and the buzz that had built up started to wane a little bit. However, Spawn has hung in there across the years and has managed to maintain his audience. And when it comes to toys, Spawn has had his fair share. No surprise given that Todd McFarlane also runs his toy company, which started life by producing Spawn figures, which were very successful and laid the groundwork for Todd expanding his toy empire and producing better and more detailed figures as time went on. In recent years, though, I've become slightly hesitant whenever McFarlane is taken over a license to start producing figures. Very often they will produce a single wave of one or two characters and then never follow up or fulfill a complete lineup if the line is deemed to not sell as well as they'd hoped or expected. There's a couple of notable examples of this. Star Trek from a few years ago, in theory, should have been a huge range, only went to 2 figures, despite others being announced. Game of Thrones is another casualty, literally just got 4 characters there. All really nice toys, would have loved to have seen fuller lines of these, but no, wasn't to be. However, over the last year or so, their acquisition of the DC license, they've produced an awful lot of figures here, and this seems to be really strong and healthy, and looks like they're going to continue to support that line, which is fantastic news for DC fans. And more recently, Todd seems to be refocusing his energy back on Spawn, trying to establish a bit of a multiverse, cross multimedia. We know he's hard at work trying to get a film made. He's expanding the comics so that there's going to be more comics in that range rather than just having one monthly title. There's going to be several going forwards. And a couple of years ago, Spawn was added as a character to the latest Mortal Kombat game. And as part of that, Todd McFarlane has created the Spawn figure that we're going to be taking a look at today. Now this is particularly exciting for me because I've always wanted a really high quality Spawn figure, and I just always seem to have missed him for one reason or another. So when this figure was announced, this looked really great, it looked comic accurate, and it looked really exciting to me, so I couldn't wait to get my hands on this version of the character. And despite being hesitant about starting a new toy line if I don't have confidence that the toy line is going to continue to grow and have all the characters in it, just having Spawn to stand by himself would absolutely be enough for me. I like the Spawn character, I read the comics, but he's the central one that I want. However, pleasingly, it has just been announced that they are actually going to expand this line and have more Spawn characters done in the same style as we've been seeing in the DC Multiverse line. So I'm really excited to see these figures be released, and I'm hoping that they continue to grow the line and that we actually get quite a full Spawn universe in the years to come. So I should point out that there are 2 versions of this figure. Well, actually, there's multiple versions in different colours, but mine is the one that comes with the mace. There is a version that came with a sword, and like I said, there's been yellow versions and pink versions and all sorts. Now, the sculpt on this figure is absolutely fantastic. It is incredibly highly detailed, as you would hope, and it has lots of texture to it. The paint apps are applied perfectly if you look around the eyes and around the M on his chest. There's no splash anywhere, and everything just looks pristine. And you can see all the sinews and the muscles and everything, and it has lots of like little washes over where the spikes are and everything to give it that sort of lived in feel. And the texture on the cape as well is just lovely. This creates this leather effect which just looks really nice. And likewise, the rubber that's been used for the belt, it managed to maintain all the detail on the paint apps, but it's not rigid, so it doesn't hinder articulation. It just looks fantastic. And again, you can see the detail there that's been applied to his big boot there and the spikes that come off it. Just looks great. Likewise, the detail on the mace itself is really nice with the green glowing eyes there and the slightly dirty wash to it. It looks brilliant. And of course, we can see it again on his gauntlet as well. So a lot of attention to detail and it looks brilliant. Thankfully, his cape is made of this soft rubber, which is fantastic. It does not hinder articulation. You can spin his head round 360 degrees if you wanted to, and has a fairly dynamic range there. You can get him looking a good distance up and a fair distance down as well. So he's got a good range of motion in the head there, which is fantastic. He also has the ball jointed chest, which is great for getting a good range of motion there. So I really love that. It looks fantastic. Doesn't look obtrusive. Looks really good. He has ball jointed shoulders, but he also has an extra joint in there which you probably can't see from here, but there's an extra joint to give him extra motion to go back as well in his shoulder there. It's a little bit hidden at the moment. He's got the swivel in the upper arm as well as the double jointed elbow, which is great. He does have articulation in the wrist so that it can bend forwards, but it can't go further back than that because it's brushing up against the hard plastic of the gauntlet there. It can swivel roughly 360 degrees if you want to force it through, but you are going to have some difficulties on that right hand. It's difficult to show, but he does also have articulation in the lower abs as well. There's like a ball jointed swivel down there. In terms of the legs, he's got that nice ball jointed hinge there at the top of the hips, which look great. And it has a good range of motion there for getting his legs forwards and backwards. Now he can bend his knees quite a good distance. They are double jointed, so he can get his legs all the way back there, which is great. He does have some foot articulation. He's got the ball jointed ankle pivots, and he's got the toe articulation as well. Obviously this works fine for the left foot. It doesn't work so well obviously for the right foot, which is again hindered by the hard plastic of the boot. But if the figure does have a failing, it would be the feet. They're too small to support the weight of this figure, especially because it's so unevenly balanced, and you will find yourself relying on the cape to support him standing up. But overall, it's done a really nice job of actually covering up and hiding the unseemly joints, the gaps in the joints there. I think he looks really fantastic. And for the sake of a scale comparison, I've put him next to the McFarlane Arkham Asylum Batman to give you a sense of how they measure up. And I have to say, I think they look great together actually. They're obviously comparable size and they look really cool. As you can see, the Spawn is actually fractionally taller than Batman, which feels appropriate. And I think what's really telling is just how much more detail you can see, how many more textures you can see in the Spawn figure. Really nice job. A lot of care has gone into this figure. You can see the level of attention to detail on the costume. They give us plenty of articulation in him as well. He's sort of like the perfect all-rounder Spawn, really. He's a Spawn for all seasons. And the design is clever enough that you can be any version of this character really and feel authentic. So overall, I love this figure. It's easily a 4-star figure. It's let down slightly by the foot articulation not being able to hold him up. But other than that, fantastic. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give it a like. And remember to subscribe as I'll be posting a lot more videos soon.